November 24, 1971. Portland International Airport. A man in a dark suit and clip-on tie pays cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. He gives the name Dan Cooper. He is calm, unremarkable, somewhere in his mid-40s. He orders a bourbon and soda before boarding. Nothing about him draws a second look. At 4:35 in the afternoon, Northwest Orient Flight 305 lifts off the runway with 36 passengers, 6 crew, and one man carrying a briefcase he will not let out of his sight.
Shortly after takeoff, the man hands a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She assumes it is a phone number, the kind of thing a lonely businessman slips a stewardess. She pockets it without reading it. He leans toward her and says quietly, "You'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She opens it. The note is typed, precise, and unshaking in its demands. Schaffner asks to see the bomb. He opens the briefcase just enough. Inside are red cylinders, wires, and a battery. She does not doubt him again. The demands are simple and specific. $200,000 in used $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve. And upon landing in Seattle, the plane is to be refueled and the money and parachutes brought aboard. He is polite throughout. He tips the stewardess for a drink. He asks that the shades be drawn on the side facing the terminal. The pilot, William Scott, relays every demand to the ground. Northwest Orient's president authorizes the payment within the hour. The FBI is already assembling a task force. While the plane circles Seattle for nearly 2 hours, burning fuel and buying time, agents on the ground work fast. They photograph every one of the 10,000 $20 bills before bundling them, recording each serial number by hand. It is a detail that will matter enormously, though nobody in that room knows it yet. By early evening, the money and 4 parachutes are driven out to the aircraft. The passengers and 2 flight attendants are released. Only the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 stewardess remain aboard with the hijacker.
Cooper orders the plane back into the air, southeast toward Mexico City, at a specific altitude, under 10,000 feet, with the flaps set at 15 degrees and the landing gear down. It is an unusual, deliberately slow configuration. It is also, investigators will later realize, exactly what a man planning to jump from a moving aircraft would want. He instructs the crew to stay in the cockpit, curtain drawn, cabin lights off. Then, somewhere over the dense, rain-soaked,
within the silent, rain-soaked forests of southwest Washington, near the Oregon border, the rear stair of the Boeing 727 begins to lower. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light in the cockpit flickers, signaling a change in the plane's aft pressure. The crew feels a slight bump in the airframe. When they finally check the cabin after landing in Reno, the aft stairway is down. Dan Cooper is gone. So is the money. So are 2 of the 4 parachutes. He has stepped out into a moonless, freezing night, wearing a business suit and loafers, over some of the most rugged, unmapped timberland in the Pacific Northwest. What follows is one of the largest manhunts in American history. Over the coming days, more than 200 FBI agents and National Guard troops comb the forests near Ariel, Washington, on foot, by helicopter, on horseback. Search dogs are brought in. nothing surfaces. No parachute, no briefcase, no body, no footprint in the mud. The terrain is brutal. Steep ravines, dense fir, freezing rain. Investigators calculate a probable drop zone based on airspeed and wind and search it for weeks. The forest gives up nothing. The FBI opens a file under the name Norjack and begins working through more than 800 suspects. Agents lean hard on the physical evidence. Cooper's discarded clip-on tie left behind on his seat, and the detailed list of recorded serial numbers from the ransom bills. If even one bill surfaces, in a bank, a store, a vending machine, it could crack the case wide open. Investigators wait. Banks across the country are quietly briefed. For years, nothing appears. The trail, like the man, seems to have vanished into the trees. Then, in February 1980, a family picnicking along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, makes a discovery that reopens everything. An 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram is raking the sandy riverbank when he uncovers 3 disintegrating packets of cash, still bundled with rubber bands.
The serial numbers match the ransom money exactly. Nearly $6,000 of it, decayed by nearly 9 years underwater and sand. It is the first physical trace of the money since the night it left the aircraft. It proves the case is real. It does not prove where Cooper landed or whether he survived the jump at all. The discovery only deepens the mystery rather than solving it. Geologists are brought in to study how the bills could have travelled to that exact stretch of riverbank, whether by current, by flood, or by a hand that buried them there. No consensus is ever reached. Meanwhile, the FBI's list of suspects grows and shrinks over the decades. Names surface in the press. A paratrooper with a grudge. A small-time drifter. A dying man's deathbed confession passed along by a relative. Each lead is investigated. Each one, eventually, is ruled out or left unreserved for lack of evidence. In 2016, after 45 years and thousands of exhausted leads, the FBI formally suspends active investigation into the case, redirecting resources toward what they call more prospective priorities. The case is not closed. It simply stops moving forward. What remains, sealed in evidence rooms, includes the clip-on tie, tested decades later for trace DNA and microscopic particles, and the recovered fragments of cash from the riverbank. Everything else, the 2 unused parachutes, the briefcase, the man himself, was swallowed by roughly 6,000 square miles of forest and has never surfaced. Theories persist because the facts allow it. Some believe Cooper never survived the jump, that the freezing night, the wind shear, the unfamiliar rig, and the unforgiving terrain killed him on impact or shortly after. His remains simply undiscovered in that vast wilderness. Others believe he planned meticulously, knew the terrain, and walked away clean, living out a quiet second life under a different name. The riverbank money complicates both theories equally. It is either proof he died near the river, or proof he deliberately discarded some of the cash to throw off pursuit. No version fully explains all the evidence. That gap is the case.